Hello, and welcome to Levels Plus Whenever episode 171. The last of the hiatus episodes. Yes, we will be getting back into normalcy probably in April with some more new stuff. This is the last of my backlog of episodes, which I literally just recorded this one, so it's not a big backlog anymore. This one's going to be revising my top 110 favorite games of all time. So this is a bit of a beefy episode to get through. And I didn't really edit it down a whole lot, mainly because I think for my favorite games, I really want to show the process of thinking and eliminating, ranking stuff, all of that fun shenanigans. So this one's a bit of a chunk compared to most of the other videos I put out these days, but I hope you'll find it worthwhile. We're gonna go ahead and jump right in. All right, folks, it is time. We had the bottom games revamp. Now it's time for the top games revamp. And as you can see, it's blank at the moment. There's nothing here. We're gonna put together a list of 144 contenders. And I am going to make this be a long-ass video because this is my favorite games of all time. I need to really process this in this video. I don't want to cut stuff out unless I say things incorrectly or I have incredible amounts of dead time, which I'm going to try to not do. I'm going to try to not do that. I would like this to just be an uncut video as much as possible. Now, I am going to just briefly pop up the original list. This was last updated in November. Most of these games will likely be transferred over into the 144 contenders, but there's going to be some changes that I'm doing that aren't reflected here. A big one, and we'll just grab, where is it? Where's one that I was thinking about because I just recently replayed it. Where the hell is, there it is. So see RE2 here, I'm wiggling it around. That's the remake. I just replayed the original, and I think that the original should be here. Same with Resident Evil 4. I think that the original RE4 should be on this list too. And wherever Silent Hill 2 Remake is. Those are three games that I took off of the list because I preferred the remake in a lot of ways. But that is no longer going to be a limitation of I'm only representing my favorite of a particular game. Anything's on the table now. Except for compilations. I don't want to put compilations on here. I feel like that's cheating. Because that's multiple games. So this will still be singular games featured on this list. This will be going up through February of 2026. So that will be the cutoff point in terms of releases. I've only bought a couple games so far this year. So that's probably going to be easy for me to manage. DLC will not be included individually outside of one exception, which is Vampire Survivors Ode to Castlevania. That is the only exception I'm making to that rule because while I like traditional Vampire Survivors, I love Ode to Castlevania. It's a very different experience for me to play the old maps and with the original characters than to play the new map with all of the Castlevania characters. That means a lot more to me, substantially, than the original game. Not a knock on the original game. I like it, but it's not going to be in consideration for my 110. Maybe if this was a top 200 list, it would be there. Okay, so those are the limitations. Not many. What I think I want to do is build out the 144 games, but I think that would be very, very tedious for you to watch. So I'm going to do that off camera. We'll put the 144 in here, and then we'll talk about them and start ironing it down to the 110. and then we'll start placing everything and figuring out where it all goes. I'm very excited. This is going to be fun. Ta-da! Here they are. The 144 contenders from my top 110 revamp for 2026. There's a lot to take in here. I realize I did start a recording of saying them all out loud, but I think that's just going to add like 10 minutes. This will get a little bit bigger as we zoom back in to get up to 110 once we eliminate 34 games from this pool to get to basically what the list should look like. But there are a lot of new faces in here, and a couple that dropped off of the old list that I just kind of felt like I didn't want to continue having on it. But I think that this is a very strong list of my personal favorites across multiple genres, platforms, and companies. Nintendo may have the most, but not as much as I expected them to have, honestly. I thought they'd at least have 3.5 rows, and they didn't quite get 3. But I was also being a little bit picky with them. It's interesting to me that as much as I love Metroid, it's really... And when I compare it to Zelda and Fire Emblem on the list, there's less of them. But I sure do love those 4 games. A lot. The other interesting thing was I built this by company. So it started with Nintendo, then moved to Capcom, etc. So by the time I got to like the indie games at the bottom, I was starting to run out of room. So that was kind of like an initial culling of probably a good 10 to 15 games that I knocked out of the list already, to make room for some indie games and a couple games I forgot from the old list, which I did decide to reference a little bit. But I still feel like this was a mostly organic process till I was getting near the end of like, these are the games that I want, these are the games that I feel strongly about, that I have really strong memories and nostalgia for, and I feel pretty excited about getting into this. So, where do I start cutting? And that's going to be the tricky thing. What games out of these 144 have the least impact on me as a whole? That's going to really be the question of narrowing things down. And really, it's hard for me to describe my criteria, because it's really going to be games that just left an imprint, that I thought it was really cool, that I thought that the game felt great to play, that I enjoyed the story and the characters, that it looks good, that the music and sound effects are memorable, that it has good art direction. There's just a lot of different factors for me that are going to impact what I ultimately cut out of this. And I think to start this off, I want to think about games that I want to come back to, like, when I think about them. I think that's a pretty good starting barometer. So, like, if I think about a particular game, like recently Absolem was really doing this for me, that when I see somebody else play it, it makes me want to play it. And I think that's a pretty good barometer of like how much of an impact a game has had, is that it makes me want to replay it again when I see other people playing it and enjoying it. I also want to think about annoyances. What games can overcome annoyances? Because all games have things that are going to be annoying in some factor. A game may be too hard. A game may have a really high difficulty point at a particular moment in a game that makes getting past it frustrating. A game may have something in it that I don't want to engage with. I'm looking at you, Dead Space 2 eyeball scanner, which basically cuts off the end of that game. As much as I love Dead Space 2 up to that point, I really really do not want to replay it past that point because of that moment. So things like that are going to be factors as to why a game might get kicked out of this list early, and then once we get to 110, we'll be lower down. Ultimately, I want to really embrace the games that bring joy to me on a profound level above anything else. So with that in mind, I want to look at this list. I'm going to take a moment off camera because I want to think. And then we'll come back and start taking things off. All right. I have written down the 34 games I'm going to cut, and I'm going to briefly discuss why, based on the criteria that I shared prior. The first game I'm dropping is Fire Emblem Path of Radiance here. I think it is an extremely good game. It has probably one of the best stories in the series, and the combat engine is pretty solid, but visually it's not great. And there's some mechanical things that I think later games do better. So that's the first cut. Mega Man 2. There's parts in this game I really do not like. The quick lasers, I think, are really cheap. I think that the, what do they call them? Kaizo blocks? Yuku blocks in Mega Man 2 on Heatman stage are cheap as well. There's just some level design stuff I don't like that Mega Man 3 I feel does a better job with. As much as some people hate those Doc Robot levels, I grew up with them, I guess. So Blades of Steel, really good hockey sports game, but kind of limited. Batman for the NES, too hard. Beautiful looking game, one of the best soundtracks in existence, but too hard. Euphoria 2, I wish it wasn't procedurally generated. I think that's the biggest crime this game makes, is that you kind of have to wander through the levels way too many times to get all the hidden stuff because they're random. On that note, I also took Blaster Master Zero off. It is the best Blaster Master game. I think it's Inti Create's best game. But in the grand scheme of action games, I feel like it's not gonna make it with some of the others on this list. Burger Time Deluxe. I think this is a fantastic reconversion of the arcade game that controls really well and has charming music. But it's not a game that I think I am like burning to come back to all the time. Since I talked about it, I'm actually going to cut Dead Space 2. I'm a little surprised because it's been pretty high ranked on this list for a long time, but that I part is going to prevent me from ever playing through it in its entirety. And I think it's also limited me wanting to return to it. I still think it's a wonderful game, but I do think that with remakes sitting here now as just an exquisitely done example of how to make something right, that you had some missteps in the original, and we're not going to get that with Dead Space 2. I think that I'm just a little sad more than anything else. Banjo-Kazooie has a couple annoying late levels that I don't think are very fun to engage with. Plus, if you die, you have to collect all the notes again, which is just annoying. Metroid Zero Mission. You can't 100% it without mastering Shine Sparking, and it's really annoying in this particular game to do that. Some of these games that I decided to cut, I'm a little surprised by, honestly, but I think that it's deserving with doing this type of review every couple years, because like your just thoughts on games change. Like Mario Odyssey, wonderful follow-up to Super Mario 64. I thought it was amazing at the time. When I look back on the gameplay part of it, I think that the moons are a little bit too randomly assigned. Like they're everywhere. I feel like with Mario 64 that there was an intention to how the stars were placed, and I don't feel that as much with the moons in Odyssey. And now that I played Bonanza, where that type of philosophy really works with that style of gameplay, I don't think Odyssey's is good. Fire Emblem Echoes. I think that I really need to replay this, but there's story stuff I don't like in it, and how Celica's ultimate decision making towards the end is just really irksome to me. Kirby Superstar, I'm not beating it. That's pretty much it. RE4 Classic is a bit misogynist, and the sequels or the remake's not, so I'm taking that out. Demon's Crest is a really great game, really atmospheric, lovely to look at. It's got some really high difficulty spikes in it that really require a lot from the player, so I think I'm going to cut it for that reason. Metal Black, I think this is such a unique shoot-'em-up concept. I think its mechanics needed a little bit more, though, to really hook me. Castlevania Portrait of Ruin is kind of slapped together. And I mean that in the kindest way possible, because I love this game. But in comparison to the other ones on this list, it's definitely the weakest. Outfoxies, really cool idea for a game. I love the sheer audacity of its gameplay mechanics. It's just not super tightly polished, and that's why I'm cutting it. Shredder's Revenge, excellent beat 'em up that is easily the best one of these in the franchise, and a really solid one. But when I compare it to the other beat 'em ups on this list, I don't think it can hang with some of the other titles I want to include. Bionic Commando Game Boy, I like it a lot, but I don't love it like I do the NES game. Gimmick is just too hard, and to get the true ending, you have to do some absolutely heinous things. Power Blade, another game that I love. I'm so glad I'm able to revisit it. I'm so glad I actually own it now. But when I compare it to like Mega Man 3 and Castlevania, it's like some of its contemporaries, I don't consider it quite as highly. Arcade Donkey Kong is like the game that started me playing video games. That's why it's here. That being said, I think Ms. Pac-Man is the better retro arcade rep, so I'm going to go ahead and take that off. Street Fighter 2 is kind of the same deal. I was infatuated with this game as a kid. Finally being able to own it was like a super wild thing that I couldn't believe I actually could do. And then so many other fighting games have come into my life that I know how to play because of Street Fighter 2 and Marvel vs. Capcom. But I think that its limited roster, its more simplified mechanics compared to like Alpha 3 and Street Fighter 6 and CBS 2 and MVC 2. Like, just even in Capcom's own stable, I feel like I have to cut it. Kirby's Epic Yarn is cute and adorable, and I love it dearly for its entire visual aesthetic. It's just not a very memorable game in terms of its gameplay. As much as I love so much about it, I don't think it hangs with the top 110. Link's Awakening DX. Really great overhead Zelda. My second favorite in the bunch. I'm cutting it because I just think that there's a couple points in that game that I don't enjoy a whole lot. Compared to the original Zelda, Ocarina, and Breath of the Wild, it's like number 4, maybe 5. With Link Between Worlds, which I'm also cutting because I don't remember a whole lot about it. I can remember things about these 3 games very prominently. Fire Emblem Awakening, again, I like a lot about it. There's some characters I despise in it. And I do think that on the grand scheme of things, when I can think about the story, it's not as good as Three Houses or Blazing Blade. I swear I get these mixed up all the time. I should just call it Fire Emblem GBA. Anyway, Dragon Quest IX. Out of the 4 Dragon Quest games, this is the one with the least characterization, and that's really its biggest crime. It's also stuck on the DS with no remake and remaster are in sight. That this game really relied on multiplayer connectivity online to really sell it. I love so much about it, but it is just the least interesting of the 4 Dragon Quests on here. I really like Bloodlines a lot. It is a really great game. It's my favorite of the Genesis Super Nintendo rivalry. Rondo of Blood is my favorite of that era. Bloodlines is close though, but it's just not quite there. Racing games are difficult for me to really love. Wave Race, I think, is the best racing game I've ever played. So it's staying on this list, but Mario Kart 8 and Sonic All-Star Racing Transformed, both excellent. Number 2 and number 3 on my list of racing games, if I remember right. But I just don't care that much about racing games to have 3 of them on my list. The last game I'm cutting is BioShock, and that's because of the Pipe Dream hacking minigame. That's the big reason. Okay, let me get this reorganized so we can start sorting these into the final list. Okay, well, I just did the cuts and replacing everything, but when I actually knock this down to an 11 by 10, which would be 110, and we see Time Splitter here in the second to last spot, but when I knock this down to 11, it's the last spot, which means I miscounted somewhere. So I need to cut one more game off of this list. And I think the game I would cut off of this list is probably Ms. Pac-Man. As good as it is, I don't have the super strongest of memories in contrast to like a lot of these other games. So let me adjust this last one. All right, here we are with the top 110 games, in my opinion, unranked in any fashion. And there's some new faces on here. Marvel's Capcom, Resident Evil 2 Classic, Silent Hill 2 Classic is back. There was one or two others. Rayforce is on here for the first time. Contra Hardcore came back because I don't think it was on the list before. So yeah, just kind of excited to have a little bit of new blood in here. And being able to resituate a whole bunch of stuff without having like the obligation to keep things as they were, so to speak. So I think what I will do to start this off is kind of start figuring out that top 10 again. That's always tricky to get things aligned, but I kind of know what those games are at this point. So Super's already where it's probably going to sit, although I am having an internal debate with Chrono Trigger. With Super Metroid, there's the wall jump that's a problem. It's just really finicky. But I was watching Smite play through Super Metroid recently, and Meridia is just kind of a pain in the ass to traverse through. So I'm like really having a debate here because I can't think of too many areas of Chrono Trigger where I'm like, I really hate going there, except the DS extra stuff that you don't even have to engage with, and I recommend you don't because it's not very good. But the core game of Chrono Trigger, there's just very little that I could even think of that I'm like, ugh. So I think I'm gonna have Chrono Trigger sitting at number 1 beginning this year, which is wild. But I'm also like kind of thrilled about it. Grease is number 3. I still think that game has just made such a huge impact on my life in recent years that I have to have it up really high. Fire Emblem Three Houses is going to be number 4 like it has been, and then RE4 Remake will continue to be number 5 like it has been. I just feel like these are my top 5 games, straight up. Beyond Good and Evil can sit in at number 6, as it has done for a while now. And then from there, it's going to be like Castlevania Aria of Sorrow. It's going to be like right there, I think, and then Skies of Arcadia is right behind it. Those two are really close in my list of personal loves. Do I have this set up to be... No, I have the width the wrong way. Because I was starting to get confused. Let's see. Elevator Action Returns. I kind of want to bump it up a spot. And I'll be honest, I think Breath of the Wild was up in here somewhere. I think I'm going to put it at number 10. I really need to replay it. That game was huge. Huge when it came out. But I haven't really touched it a whole lot since that time. And I have, for the most part, played through most of these, except for Skies, recently. And I think that Breath of the Wild just probably needs a replay to kind of see if it needs to be up a little higher. But I do love Elevator Action Returns, and it is going to slowly probably keep creeping up a little bit higher as time goes on. I need to get Smash, I think. Smash and Hotel Dusk. Hotel Dusk is probably still number 11, and then Smash is still probably close to number 12. Those two are really, really big for me. NES Bionic Commando. I just think the gameplay on this is so good. I really do. Oh, let's see. Now I'm just now I've got The World Is My Oyster. I can put all kinds of things here. That's the fun of just revisiting this list. Street Fighter 6, I think, would probably be pretty close to being in top 15. On the bottom end, CBS 2 is going to be close. I'm going to put it right next to it because that game is still fantastic. Being able to play it again has just reminded me of how fantastic it is. I think Dead Space Remake should probably be like here. I think that game is extraordinarily good. I think XCOM 2. I did replay it recently. I need to play War of the Chosen again though, but I do think this is like a top 15 game for sure. Metaphor I want to bump up, actually. I want Metaphor and Unicorn Overlord to kind of be in the top 20 because I think both of these games are among the best Atlas and Vanillaware I've ever done. Extraordinarily good. I want to put Earthbound at number 20. I still think that's a top 20 game. Ghost Trick, though. I think Ghost Trick is still in the top 20. It's just a really good game. I think... I think it's there. I think it's right there. Castlevania Symphony of the Night, I think, should be here. Dread should be around it. I think that these two are really close together in my overall list. Dragon Quest VIII has fallen a bit. I probably need to replay it. It's really long, and I think that's why it's been slipping, because it used to be a top 10. But it's been slipping, and I think that when I think about games I want to replay, I love 8. I love 8. It is so long. It is so long. Let's see. Spiritfarer should probably be up in here somewhere too. I think it should be around Ghost Trick level. I think it's really good. I think Untitled Goose Game as well is probably in the top 20. I've replayed that like 3 times in the last 2 years, and I do think that it is really good. I think I actually like it more in Spiritfarer now, and possibly Ghost Trick, and possibly Dead Space. I don't know about Street Fighter 6, but I think Untitled Goose Game is on a rise right now. Really good game. Really freaking good game. So tightly designed. I really think Absolem is fantastic. I think that it deserves to be in the top 30. Bonanza also needs to be a little ahead of it. And Silent Hill F. Well, actually, you know, in hindsight, you know, I crowned Silent Hill F game number 2 and Absolem game number 3. But with a couple more months away, I feel like Absolem on a gameplay level is so good. And I feel like Silent Hill F, while it's excellent, I think it fumbled the ending a little bit for me. The true ending fumbled things for me a bit. So I think it's going to be lower on the list than it originally was. And I think Absolem is actually my second game of the year for last year. At the time of this recording. Oh, it's getting hard now. Like, just like, I'm looking at stuff and it's like, I want to pull that up there and I want to pull that up there. It's fun. This is a fun thing. Mega Man 3 needs to be in the top 30, and I think Ninja Saviors should probably also be in the top 20. I really love this game. Now the question is, what do I love more, CBS 2 or Ninja Saviors? Boy, that's a really tough question. I actually think it is Ninja Saviors. I think this is right. Oh, the agony. Okay. Moving onward. The Silent Hill debate. I remember having this debate when I was looking at the old list, and they were just all like right next to each other. I think out of the 4 Silent Hill games that are still here, and I don't think I even removed one, I think 2 Remake and 3 are the ones that are going to be the highest. 3, I think, is going to go here. I think Mark of the Wolves should be right next to it. That game is so good. It's easily SNK's best game, in my opinion. Probably Rondo of Blood. Rondo of Blood is so good. And then I think we'll have the second Dragon Quest game on this list, which will probably be 5. Be around here. The original Zelda I also want to be in like the top 35, so that feels about right. The Last Story, though, needs to be up here too. I think that would go there. I think it would actually go here. I need to replay that. That's a really good game. Portal. Portal's got to be near the top 30. I think I'd put it above Silent Hill 3. Perfect Dark's got to be in the top 40. So I'm going to just slide it here. And I think Ocarina of Time needs to be in the top 40 as well. I think I'd put it there. And then I think I'd put Neva to kind of round out that top 40. Mario 64, though. Mario 64, though. I think I would put Neva above Dragon Quest V. Splatoon should be around here. I think Metroid Prime Remastered is also like near here as well, in the top 50. From there, Suikoden 2, and then Xenoblade Chronicles. I think that makes sense. I've really been enjoying the RE2 revisit in Classic. That was fun. That was super fun. I think I'm actually gonna slide it up into the top 40. like around Zelda, between, I think it's there. I think this game is that good. Coming back to it after not playing it in years, I think that Resident Evil 2 Classic is one of the highlights of the 32-bit era. Really been enjoying it. The remake is really good too, but I feel like that there's some stuff that they cut out. In some ways, some of the cuts were good, and I think the characterization is a lot better in the remake. So it's gonna be like probably near the top 50, but I want another Code to be in the top 50. I really like that game. It is very underrated. Sly 2, I think, should be in the top 50 as well. That game's extraordinarily good. Celeste. Celeste is another game that needs to be probably in the top 40. Yeah, I think that's its place right there. Actually, I think I would put it above the last. I think I'd put it around Portal in terms of just excellence, in terms of redefining what platforming can be. I think it's just that good of a game. SteamWorld Heist 2 should probably round out this top 50. I think that this is a really good follow-up that really expands upon what made the original game so good, but just takes it to the next level. It's okay. We've got a top 50 kind of sorted out, but I'll probably be ironing some more things in because I'm going to keep spotting stuff that I think should be higher as we go through this. XCOM Enemy Within would probably be 51. That game is really, really good. Really, really good still. Ogre Battle 64 would be pretty close behind it. That's always been like at least around the 50s. Shovel Knight has fallen a lot, and I probably just need to replay it. See where it really sits. I'm gonna give Soul Calibur a big bump because I was reminded yesterday when I was at a gaming convention here in town. They had a kiosk with a Dreamcast that had Soul Calibur in it, and they hadn't started the demo. That was still on the VMU screen. So I started the demo, and just hearing Namco just made me go, I love Soul Calibur. I think it needs to be higher than I've had it in the last few years. It's really, really good. Oh, I think Sonic Mania was the game that I cut, but I didn't actually cut it. So I'm going to just bump it here at the bottom. It could be 110. Speaking of RE2 Remake, I think I'm going to put it here, and Silent Hill 2 Remake pretty close to it. Because I think that these two games do really well on the remake fronts. I think that RE2 Classic is better, but I don't... Silent Hill 2 Classic has a couple issues that I think the remake addresses. It's a shame that they had the mannequins be so freaking aggressive in the remake. Alpha 3. That is a wonderful game that needs to be at least in the top 60. Streets of Rage 4 is also another one of those that I think needs to be in the top 60. Mule. Iconic game. Really, really great game. And then I think to round that out, I'll put A Short Hike. I really enjoy A Short Hike. I think it's a fantastic adventure game that just hits a lot of things right for me. Moving into this row here, what are we going to start putting there? As this gets increasingly difficult. I think we'll start with Portal 2, because I think Portal 2 is an excellent game, like Portal. It just lacks the impact, but it evolves a lot of really cool gameplay mechanics and such. Marvel vs. Capcom 2. I think that the fluidity that they put into this game is extraordinarily good. Mario RPG Remake is really freaking awesome. I was really pleased with that game. Especially since I bounced off the original pretty hard. I think we'll just slide Mario 3 right next to it. because that's also an extraordinarily good game. I'm going to slide. I'm just kind of looking around down here. SteamWorld Dig 2. Another great game in that franchise. And then I think I'm feeling like RE Remake and then Silent Hill F can be kind of near each other. I don't know why I keep pairing these two right side by side, but that's just kind of what's being called at the moment. Clair Obscur is going to be like here, I think. That game fell quite a bit from my initial thoughts on it. Contra Famicom can go there. I think Mega Man X is a pretty good follow-up with Apollo Justice. I think Apollo Justice deserves to be a little higher. Yeah, that looks good. But these are two really great action games. And then we're getting near the bottom. We're kind of starting to round things out here. I think Alliance Alive should be here. I think Astrobot should be around that. And then Clair Obscur can be there. I really like Project Justice. Replaying it recently was really nice. Just a nice reminder that it should be up higher on this list than in the bottom row. I think Vampire Survivors Ode to Castlevania should be here. I think it was a little higher before, but I think that's a good place for it. I feel like the shoot 'em ups are all gonna lump together by the time I get to them. I think Ghost of Yote can go right there. And then probably Fire Emblem Warriors 3 Hopes, and then Kirby's Adventure. That looks right. Dragon Quest 4. That looks right. Original Suikoden, I think that rounds out that row pretty nicely. KOF 11. Strider 2014. OG Castlevania. Night Slashers. Silent Hill 2 Classic. I think I hit the shoot 'em up point. Sapphire at the top. Thunder Force 2. And then Ray Force. I feel like those three games consolidate into what I want out of a shoot 'em up, so just having them all clumped together like that makes sense to me. Legend of Valkyrie. I really like that game. And then Tchia. That game really grew on me. All right, we are in 91 to 100, and International Superstar Soccer 98 fell like 30 spots, but you know, I haven't played it in forever. But it is the best sports game I've ever played and deserves to be higher than the bottom row, in my opinion. I like Time Spinner a lot. I like Last Blade 2 a lot. Those can be right there. I like Sin and Punishment Star Successor a lot. I think Metal Slug X might be a little low. I think that might actually be like in this row. Cat Quest 3, really charming. I think that's there. Little Kitty Big City's probably bottom row. It'll do 2. I really like this game. I think I'm going to actually slide that up to be about here. I think that Fire Emblem GBA can stay right where it is. Golden Axe, whatever that subtitle is that I can't read at this distance, can go there. And I think Armor Warriors is kind of like around that. And then I'm going to slide Little Kitty Big City up here. It's got a couple like hitches here and there, but it's a really charming game. I think Wonder's where it should be. I think Wave Race is where it should be. I think MVC is where it should be. Trials of Mana I actually liked a lot. Like, I was very impressed with that game. I think I'm going to slide that up here. Contra Hardcore could probably stay, as well as Streets of Rage 2. Transaruby, I feel, is like around Metal Slug X to Chia levels. Sayonara Wild Hearts, I really like the music and the visual vibe. The gameplay is not as much of my favorite, but I do like it. So I feel like it being there makes sense. And then Sonic Mania Plus is the best Sonic game, in my opinion. I think I like it more than Sonic CD, which did drop off of this list. Okay. I'm going to let this sit for a week or so, and then we'll come back and maybe do some last-minute refinements. All right. It is now March. I figure that's a good enough length of time to come back to this after editing the video, having a little bit of further rumination on how I want this list to look. It's mostly going to be stuff probably further down. I think the top 10 is pretty locked at this point. There's a part of me that's like, why is Super Metroid not first? But I do think that Chrono Trigger, when I think about overall execution of ideas, I think Chrono Trigger just lands everything. And Super Metroid lands 98% of it. It's really the wall jump and a couple frustrating underwater parts that I think knock Super Metroid down just a tiny little bit. But I continue to think about Chrono Trigger and I can't think of a problem. So I think that as far as a perfect video game goes, that might be it. It's really, really good. And I need to replay it. It's been way too long. But I think the rest of this top 10 is pretty much where it needs to be. I think for the most part, the second row is pretty good as well. I feel a little odd having CBS 2 down in this bottom part. But when I look at what's here, I really don't think that there's anything I could change. Because I do love all of these games dearly. So I think CBS 2 is just going to have to live with being number 21. These two are where they should be, but I wonder if I like Metaphor a little bit more. I'm certainly considering buying expensive things for Metaphor, and I haven't for Unicorn Overlord, primarily because they haven't really done ones of the characters I like, and if they have, they're vanillaware fan service, so I don't want them. So I think I'm going to go ahead and just slide Metaphor up a tiny bit. Yeah, Dread and like Earthbound Symphony of the Night and Dread all used to be in the top 20, and I feel like they slipped a tiny bit. But I still think they're kind of where I want them. But I do think I'm going to slide Earthbound underneath these two. I think Dragon Quest VIII I like more than Earthbound as well. So I'm going to do those changes, but Earthbound can stay right there. I think I like it. This is the tricky thing. It's like Absolem is so good. It's so good. I have heard the new patch has messed things up a little bit though, which is a little concerning. I haven't played it. So I am going to leave it there for now. Because I do really like Bonanza too. I really had so much fun with Bonanza. And I like the DLC a lot too. So like the full package of that game is fantastic. It's weird seeing Mega Man 3 so low. It used to be my favorite NES game. I think as I've gotten older, I've accepted that it's a bit of a flawed product. It's got more slowdown than I think every other game in the series, maybe outside of the first. It's got a broken Robot Master sequence, that there's two separate sequences that don't sync up. The Doc Robot levels, I like them, but they can be a little frustrating because some of them, like if you run out of Rush Jet or Marine, you're kind of screwed. So I think I'm actually going to bump Mega Man 3 down a little bit lower and let Portal be in the top 30 because Portal is a wonderful game. And I can't think of too many huge flaws with it. So I think this is a good spot for Mega Man 3. I need to play the last story. I want to raise the last story, but I also don't because I haven't played it in so long. So I'm going to leave it right where it is. I I think in some ways RE2 Classic should be higher because I just recently replayed that and I had such a great time. I think it should be about here. Real close to Mario 64. Like in terms of importance of early 3D games, this game is almost as important as Mario 64. And I just recently replayed the original Zelda too, and I think that it deserves to be a bit higher as well. I love the design of this game, and playing around with doing things a little out of order and finding that flexibility in the design to be able to go out of order, I think that's really nice for a game that came out in 1986. I feel bad for Splatoon because Splatoon used to be in the top 10. And Splatoon 3 in particular, I really want Splatoon 4 because I don't like the maps as much as Splatoon 3. And I think that's partially why it's fallen. And I can't say I like Splatoon 2 more at this stage because there's a lot of stuff in 3 that I think is done better. I do think 2 has the better maps, but I don't have 2 on this list. 3 is kind of the representative of Splatoon at this point. So I think I'm going to leave that where it is. I think I'm going to slide Metroid Prime Remastered up a tiny bit. I really like that game. Oh, Suikoden 2 versus Xenoblade Chronicles. I also want another code to be higher. I feel like it should be there. I think Dragon Quest V is also a little too high. I did take an extremely long break from it, so I'm going to slide that down a little bit. I think it should be in the top 50, but I don't think it should be as high as it was. But I feel like most of this is right. I do think XCOM Enemy Within should be in the top 50. I think Ogre Battle 64 should also be in the top 50. So that means the Dragon Quest is falling out of the top 50. And I think that's okay. I think I'm going to put 2 above it, though. And then I'm not going to fiddle with it anymore. But I do love both of these games, and I think they are both top 50 worthy, for sure. But I do think that Xenoblade Chronicles is not as good as Ogre Battle 64 or XCOM Enemy Within when I think about it a little bit more. There's stuff about it that I wish was done a little bit differently. I want to bump A Short Hike up a lot. I think that it should be in consideration for top 50. So I'm going to put it above Shovel Knight. I love Alpha 3 too. I'm going to just slide it next up to Soul Calibur because those 2 games really do mean a lot for me in terms of Dreamcast nostalgia. I think the Mannequins and Silent Hill Remake make it a lesser title because they're just so aggressive. And I still am of the argument that Silent Hill shouldn't be super combat driven, at least with James. I think with F, they did a better job making that make more sense. James, just, I don't think he should be as engaged with the combat. Everything else about 2 Remake, though, I think is at least a tiny bit better, if not quite a bit better from the original. But you'll see the original is still on this list, as we discussed before, so. Mario 3 should probably be here, honestly. I think it's slipped too much. It should be, like, at least in the top 60. I do love the Famicom Contra. I think I'd put it about there. I think Alliance Alive is a little too high. I think I'm going to slide that to be around Trials of Mana. I really wish the end of Silent Hill F was a little different. This game would be so much higher if I just didn't feel like that true ending just sucked a bit of the momentum out of its messaging. I think Ode to Castlevania should be above Project Justice. I think Claire Obscure should be above Astrobot. I think Claire Obscure should be about there. I think it's kind of got the same problem. I don't care for the ending. Like so much else about it. I'm not seeing too many other things that is making me go, I want that to be higher or lower at this point. I think everything else is kind of where it should be. So here we are with my new top 110 list with a little bit of additional consideration. Not many changes to the top 20, I can say that at least. I think that that's pretty locked in at this point. All right, thank you for joining me as I reevaluated, and we'll be back in April with some more videos. Thank you for your understanding as I work on my book, and I will see you in a few weeks. Take care, friends.